Attention duelists. Greetings here with Cross Christ once again to bring you the discussion of our previous match where we had Amazement versus Chaos using the new stuff that we were able to have access to thanks to the Progression Selection Pack series, whatever dumb name I'm calling this thing. Now, this is a spoiler for what already happened, but the match did go 2-1 in Amazement's favor over Chaos. So, in the instance of both of us having strong opinions on how chaos doesn't work on its own, we're going to go into the breakdown of this one. And the man actually driving this Titanic is going to tell us where it all went wrong.
Don't make me Captain Edwards.
Tell me the shape of the iceberg. Tell me, do you
I
still
can't.
hear the lambs?
Every night I still hear them, the suffering children. Okay, so
well-
let's go over this mess then.
Yeah, well, first let's just cover the deck list because it's got your
Yeah,
typical staples and it's got a lot of use out of Ogre in the match at least.
yeah. So I was gonna say, Ogre did have a little dual use there in her effect, and the fact that she's a light monster, so that works in the chaos aspect. Let's start by going over the new stuff then. So first and foremost, Core of Chaos. It's got the, I don't want to call it standard chaos effect. It can't be normal summoned or set. It has to be special summoned by banishing a dark monster. Unlike our old school Invasion of Chaos cards, this one lets you banish it from the hand, so there's a bit more versatility. So it's not like you have to load up your graveyard first. That said, if it is special summoned, it does lock you into light and dark synchro monsters for the rest of the turn. This is going to be a reoccurring theme here, and I think it's one of the parts of the deck that really, really, really hurts it. That said,
sort of like to bring it back to one of our previous matches, my complaints about Abyss actors locking themselves into Abyss actor pendulums.
I was going to say, I think it is safe to say that if a monster's effect locks you into a super, super, super specific type of card, it's not exactly great.
And that's not to say that light and dark synchros are bad.
It's just there
are other archetypes that are a lot looser with their restrictions that do the same thing.
Exactly, and I wouldn't even say do the same thing. I would say do more than what these ones do. We'll get into that when we get into the extra deck monsters then. What I do like is how it synergizes then with Shell of Chaos. So if it is special summoned, I can target a banish Shell of Chaos, special summon it. So, and inversely, we'll hop over to that one then. Shell of Chaos is essentially the same thing except inverted. Core of Chaos, 0 attack, 1600 defense, light tuner. Shell of Chaos, 1600 attack, 0 defense, dark attribute, non tuner. So these two, they synergize super duper well. The only issue is they need to be together in some way, shape, or form in the hand. And unfortunately, in all three of the games, that only happened during game 3, which is where the OTK happened there, but we'll talk a little more about that later also.
Yeah, I noticed during their matches that Shell of Chaos showed up a lot, but Core always came too late, if at all.
Yes, exactly.
Are there... I'm trying to think if there are any cards that could be used to just search it that you can use going first. I'm not really thinking of any.
We'll skip ahead over to the spells and traps. Let's bring up Chaos Space here. Send one light or dark monster from your hand to the graveyard. Add one light or dark monster that cannot be normal summoned set from your deck to your hand with a level from 4 to 8. Here's where it gets funny. That level 4 to 8 part there, yes, Core it being a level 2 doesn't exactly work around that. Now, that said, you could bring out Mirage Dragon with that effect because it is a level 4 tuner. However, its recursive effect involves a banished monster, whereas Chaos Space just sends it to the graveyard. So if you would use
you would have Chaos Space to discard Core of Chaos, add Shell, banish to summon Shell and then unbanished
You're
for
off to the
Mirage.
races, yes.
That's a super picky hand.
Yes, it is. And again, I'm running 3 copies of each core, shell, and space, and we see how consistent that was. That is just shy of a quarter of the deck, and it did not happen often.
Yeah, and to touch on this not really being an archetype, other than Chaos Space, all the stuff that is in your deck for spells and traps is just generic support stuff. You
I'll
don't
go
really
into
have
what?
a lot of options for helping yourself out on that one.
Exactly. A little bit ago, we were talking about the structure deck, Dragons Collide.
Mm-hmm.
That said, the chaosy stuff that was added into that one, I believe it was Zone of Chaos, which is a field spell.
Yes.
If I'm remembering correctly, could you pull that up real quick? I believe it gets a counter on it for each card that is. I think it's either each time a card is special summoned or each time a card is banished. I
Each
want to
time a
say ban.
monster is banished,
I yes, which yeah, each
gets a
time a
chaos
monster is
counter.
banished.
Once per turn, you can
Okay.
remove 4 more chaos counters from your field. Target one banished monster with a level equal to the number removed. Special summon that target. When this card in the field is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, you can add one light or dark monster from your deck to your hand whose level is less than or equal to the number of chaos counters that were on the card. I think this is kind of bad, especially with how
Yeah,
fast Yu-Gi-Oh goes now.
I agree wholeheartedly, and that was really the only
Because like, can you
legitimate chaos
banish
support.
4 monsters on your own? Because even like
No,
that best opening hand scenario, we are only like banishing one, right? Banishing the core to get out Shell.
well, here's one thing to keep in mind. When they are, let me pull it up here. If this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. That effect is on each core of chaos and shell of chaos.
All right, so when you sync them, then they're re-banished.
Yes, so that would be 3 counters right there then. But still, there are way too many hoops. I would not consider Chaos Space a good card. Like you said, in this day and age, with how fast it is, it's not worth running.
Chaos Zone, not Space. Space is good.
Sorry, you're correct. Space is serviceable. I'm going to be fair there. Space is serviceable.
Yeah, Space puts in more work in Dragon Link than I think it did for you. At least more reliably.
Yes. Yes. Now that said, the pairing of core and shell, I really like it because it's basically 2 cards. You're off to the races. Use one or the other to special summon the one. Bring back the other. Then you bring about your Chaos Beast. Then the level 6 Fiend Synchro. Um, that one, if any cards have been banished this turn, this card gains 1,000 attack points. So off the bat, it is already coming in at 6,000. Its additional effect, then, you can target one of your banished light or dark monsters, add it to your hand during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard. You can banish one light or dark monster from your graveyard, except this card, special summon this card to your graveyard. So, if Chaos Beast is Synchro Summon, then you're picking one of those 2 to put back into your hand. Then, now there's where it gets a little funky. So, if you didn't already summon it this turn by its own effect, and you use Chaos Beast to put Chaos Core back in your hand, and you have the means to banish another Dark Monster to summon Core of Chaos, right there you have a Chaos Archfiend then. In that case, rather than the 1,000 attack point boost, it gets at 2,000. It banishes anything that it destroys by battle, and if it would leave the field because of a card effect, special summon a Chaos Synchro monster from the extra deck. So, not terrible. That said, that is not a Synchro summon that it is doing of the Chaos Synchro monster. But still, not bad. More often than not, it's going to be 4,500 attack points. It can attack all monsters, and everything it attacks is banished. Now, then on the flip side, with Beast, if you bring back the shell, then that is and you have the means to bring it out once again, yada, yada, yada. That right there, you have level 10 accessibility, so that's where you get into the new boss monster, Chaos Angel. There's a bit of an issue with that, though.
Another issue. You said bring back Shell with Beast.
Yes.
Neither of those are tuners. Also, none of those are
Well,
light tuners.
that latter part is the big issue there. So, first line of Chaos Angel. For this card, Synchro Summon, you can treat one light or dark monster you control as a tuner. So, if you would bring back Shell, it can be treated as a tuner.
Hmm.
So,
Oh, that explains a lot of why Chaos Angel's in so many lists, because you don't even need to run tuners in it.
exactly.
Gross.
Now, now on the flip side there, that means its only effect then if you're using the shell and the beast would be its dark effect. Monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. Not bad if this not were not for the fact that we are now in the year of our Lord 2023, even closer to 2024. This effect I think would be serviceable back in 2009. I think when the Zexal era came around, this stuff got power crept.
Yeah, it really moved away from battle destruction being the biggest
Yes.
removal.
Yes, I believe you said it when we were um, off camera. This is we have chaos beat down at home.
Yeah.
So that said, the we didn't bring it up yet, but the light effect, if a light monster was involved, synchro monsters you control are unaffected by monster effects activated by your opponent. It's a pseudo towers, but we saw with your what was it, family fun time? What was it?
Amazement Family Faces.
Family faces. Thank you. Yeah, it protects from monsters, but traps and spells are a completely different story there.
Yeah. Also, to continue to bash on Chaos Angel, it only provides protection to other synchro monsters. So even slotting this into a non-synchro deck doesn't really help the deck as much. Like, yeah, you could
Right,
also get a 3500 body, but none of that would really help.
right. So the only thing it would provide would be with using a dark monster. Monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle, which again would be nice if we weren't in the age of just pop, 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 pop.
The Age of
Destroy.
Baron DPE.
Basically, yes. So that said, moving on to some other cards that we got out of this one. Two new cards and few older ones here. So Chaos Witch is kind of fun. You contribute this card, special summon two Dark Beast tokens. So nice little way to get some extra bodies on the field and sort of fudge around with some synchro effects. And then on the flip side, if it's banished, you are able to summon two level 2 light fairy tuners. Now, you can't activate both effects during the same turn, which kind of sucks. Additionally, it locks you, like the other ones, into the lighter dark synchro monsters. Again, kind of sucks, because otherwise it'd be a one card Link 2 engine right there. But still.
Yeah, the more I look at Chaos Witch, the more I'm like, they were almost touching on something really strong,
Mhm.
but then they pulled back super hard.
Yeah, with those two restrictions, the you can't do both effects each turn, and it locks you into the specific extra deck summoning. Yeah, it's just like, all right, we're good. Wait, well, we got to overcorrect right now. So that said, I really don't think that this card deserves its ultra rare status.
Yeah, it's half formed.
Yeah, that said, I pulled like five of them, so I dismantled two, so that was kind of nice.
Small victories for poor loss.
Yep. And then the other new card, which we haven't. Wait, we went over all the synchros, right? Beast.
Uh, yes.
Yes. Yeah, with the
The
exception
only
of Magic
one we didn't touch
Ruler,
was
but
Ruler, but everyone
yeah,
knows
well,
Ruler.
yes, everyone knows Ruler. I'm surprised. I was legitimately surprised. It's just like, wait, this thing wasn't banned here yet? Because it was been banned in the TCG for almost a year now, I think.
Yeah, I think they're still keeping it around so everyone doesn't unmake their Dragon Link decks.
That makes a lot of sense. So, in any case, we're not talking about him. We're talking about Chaos Mirage Dragon. I actually really like this dude. So he is basically the only normal summon in the deck. Well, you
Which,
could you could normal summon Witch. Alternatively, you could banish Witch from hand for your other effects, or even send it right to the graveyard, and then you're off to the races there. But Mirage Dragon's effect to target a banished light or dark monster and special summon it to your field but negate its effects. That's kind of nice in a deck that's constantly banishing stuff. Now, again, it has the restriction of light and dark synchro monsters. So, yes, that sucks. But if it's used as synchro material, which it's a tuner, why wouldn't you do that? And hey, its effect even locks you into synchro summoning. Banish, sorry, target cards your opponent controls up to a number of monsters used for the synchro summon and banish them. So if, let's do a little math here, you use two monsters for a synchro summon. Sorry, other monsters. So you're using at least one other monster here. You're getting a free banish off of that. So that's not too shabby. Additionally, if you it's able to bring back the shell. It's able to bring back the witch if she was banished that turn. I feel like he opens up a lot of things, especially since these other monsters are typically special summoning themselves. Speaking of special summoning themselves, we have, I believe you brought up D Link there. We have two copies of Wyver Burster and two copies of Collapse Serpent. We were talking about this a little bit before. I always called it Wyver Buster. It's just like, oh wait, that's Wyver Burster. I never noticed the R
yeah, I'm going to
flinking
choose
in
to
there.
continue to ignore the R. It's Wyverbuster.
We are on the same page then. So they need no introductions because they've been around since 2011, and I think they are more popular than their grown-up versions, the Light Pulsar and Dark Flare Dragons. Can't be normal or summoned or set, must be special summoned from hand by banishing the opposite attribute of itself. You can only special summon one once per turn this way. So that's all well and good then, but the nice little effect that they have if they are sent from the field to the graveyard, let's say for a synchro summon, you get to add its twin from your deck to your hand. And so they're self-replenishing then. I love that little combination. I am sad that they are still limited to one apiece in TCG right now. But still, they add to those, well, any of the plays really. I mean, if you have Mirage Dragon out, that's an easy use for Archfiend there. If you have Core, you have your Beast plays then. Or if you have enough set up there, they're just another piece for the Angel. Or as we saw in Game 3, bringing out, what's his name? Magic Chaos Ruler. Moving away from the Chaosy monsters, little techie stuff that I decided to throw in there just in case I wasn't able to get to the synchro stuff. I have the DPE package there. So we have Denier, Dasher, one copy of Fusion Destiny, and then the one copy of DPE. Then, as far as generic staples, then we have our 3 Max C, 3 Ghost Ogre, who it works really nicely as a light attribute monster for being able to get out any of the chaos monsters who need to banish. Oh snap! I forgot about someone here. Chaos Valkyria. Sorry, going back to those real quick. Can't be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned by a card effect. So, like her own effect, where you can banish a light or dark monster from your graveyard to special summon her. If she herself is banished, you can send a light or dark monster from your deck to the graveyard, but for the rest of your turn, you cannot activate cards or effects with the same name as that card. And you can only use one effect per turn. So, when she is sent to the graveyard, when she is banished, excuse me, she acts as a foolish bearer, which is nice. I don't like that you need to remove something from play in your graveyard to bring her in. Honestly, I might. If I would keep playing this deck, I would cut her back to either a 1 or a none. And I'm tempted to leave her at a 1 just so I have those extra bodies for the dark monsters to summon themselves out. So, going back real quick, Ghost Stoker, like I said, her effect, not too shabby. I'd say B tier as far as hand traps go. Plus, she's a light monster, so she synergizes well with the deck. Ash Blossom needs no introduction. If you can run 3, run 3, which I did. Harkening back to the days of Invasion of Chaos, I brought out the Dark Hole just in case I needed a little extra graveyard setup there. If I felt I didn't need to run that, set up my own graveyard, I had Regeki for board breaking. Just as well, we had Harpy's Feather Duster for that, and then Lightning Storm if I was feeling a little spicy. I think Lightning Storm showed up in all 3 games, didn't it?
At the very least, 2.
Yeah, at least 2, which that versatility there, I can dig it. Card Destruction, that one's sort of a flavor thing for me. I did like playing Dragon's Collide back when it came out, and that was a nice way to set up the graveyard for it. Um, I guess it helped disrupt you a little bit, but it really didn't help me out per se.
Yeah, it didn't
Especially since
seem like you were really drawing anyone that needed to banish to summon then.
right, and on top of that, a lot of this new chaos stuff, they just special summon themselves by banishing from hand, anyways. So there's that. Foolish Burial. Send whatever I need to the graveyard. Do I have Shell in hand? Well, then I can send Core to the graveyard from my deck and start that whole train running there. Could do the exact same thing with Chaos Witch so that I could get her summon effects off. Or if I really felt like it, I could banish Valkyrie so that I could get her own Foolish Burial effect in just to thin the deck out a little bit. Triple Tactics Talent, I only have 1 copy of, and I've not had a strong itch to generate another copy of, but it does its job just fine. We'd covered Chaos Space a little bit back at the beginning of the video then, how it's able to pull a level 4 to 8 light or dark monster, opposite of whatever you send to the graveyard. It's good for getting out Shell, it's good for getting out Mirage if you need it. The really, really, really sucky thing about it is it can't bring out Core, and Core is the core to getting this train rolling.
Yeah, because isn't Core like the only on its own tuner if you had to go in like Beast or Archfiend?
Mirage Dragon is also a tuner. The only issue is it is the normal summon monster, so and it only special summons something that has been banished. So unless there's something that has been banished, you use Chaos Space to put put Mirage in your hand, but then you don't have any targets for it to special summon when it's brought out. Well, congratulations, you have a 1600 attack point beat stick right there that does nothing else. Have fun with that. Last 3 cards in the main deck: 1 copy of Called by the Grave and 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Again, generic, good stuff that you're going to throw in the deck there. I myself typically only run 2 copies. I've run too many games where, funnily enough, Infinite Impermanent turns into a brick. If I'm starting with it, I'll set it, and then removal happens, and it's just like, well, great. That did absolute nothing. All right, going back to the extra deck. We already talked about Destroy Phoenix. We'd gone over the list of the Chaos monsters with the exception of Chaos Roller. Like you said, he really has no need for an introduction. The excavating effect, put 1 card in your hand, and then the rest in your discard pile. Sorry, GY. That it doesn't get more chaos than that, as well as his own recursive effects, which can work in tandem with Shell. Sorry, not Shell. Core makes a 2-card Chaos Angel. Personally, I'd like him to work alongside Chaos Angel for that swinging action, but whatever. If for whatever reason I'm unable to get into my synchro plays with Core, Witch, Shell, or Mirage Dragons, I am able to use the Wyver Buster, Collapse Servant, and even Valkyria to go into a Utopia play, which I would then extend from into C39 and then finish off with Zeus. Or alternatively, if I'm feeling a little fun, we have our extra link monsters, IP Masquerena. Just go to do that link climbing for either Appaloosa or Unicorn, or alternatively Verte if I haven't gotten Fusion Destiny in hand and just want to bring out DPE. So, like I was saying earlier, I feel like the Dragons Collide deck did a better job with Chaos than this. They really didn't touch too much on the extra deck in that regard, which, alright, fine, you're not able to access your boss monsters as easily. But the way this deck locks you into the light and dark synchro monsters, that just hurts a lot. Additionally, with the Dragon's Collide, you had other fun cards you could be running. You had your Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon to bring out extra stuff. You had Dark Arm Dragon then for the extra poppings going on. Yeah, I just feel as a whole like that deck functioned a lot better. And funnily enough, I remember playing it and it felt a lot more consistent than this deck did. What exactly I would do to change this up, like I said, probably drop the Valkyrias, maybe even take out the DPE package, and try for something for a little more draw power. Probably Pot of Prosperity would be my go-to in that regard then. Don't get me wrong, it is fun. We saw in game 3 that it is able to pull off an OTK just fine. The issue is you need to have the hand for it, and you need to make sure that you're set up for it. If it weren't for that lightning storm, I don't think I would have been able to pull that off. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'd have to go back and check the entirety of what I had set that game because I had set Horror House and Dogmatica Punishment. So yeah, I would have been able to interrupt.
Okay. And then additionally, I think I also had Infinite Impermanence that hand also. So Lightning Storm happened, took out your back row. You brought out your was it? It's not
Administrator.
administrator. It was administrator. Okay. Infinite Impermanence stopped him, and then it was off to the races.
Yeah.
That is one plus I'm going to give to this deck. It does have the wiggle room that you can put these just generically good staples in it. So, any thoughts you have on this deck before we talk about another one?
The only thing I was ever worried about you having was back row removal. Nothing about your monsters bothered me,
Fair enough.
especially because
That
that
said,
first game I
go
was
ahead.
able to Diabolosis and look at your extra deck and see what I'd have to be worrying about in the future.
Right. Now, that said, there was another deck that I was considering playing, but in playing with it for the last 2 days, I have no idea what Konami was thinking of when they put together Valence. That deck, oh my gosh, it feels like it does so much to accomplish nothing. If I may, can I pull up a little. Excuse me just a second.
What you're saying is Pendulum worst deck.
You want to hear a hot take? I think Dino Mist is a better deck than Valence.
Ooh, get him where it hurts.
Yes. Because at least with that one, with like Spinos and all that, you're able to go for direct attacks and all that. And you have removal with Howling and the sort. And you have protection. I'm talking about a deck that, you know what? Dino Mist did get support this time around because wasn't there that one Draco Slayer card that's also a Dino Mist?
Yes.
Shoot, I should have played Dynamis today.
Would have been very funny.
Oh, it would have been so funny. But no, Valence and just playing with them. The really only the only way that I found that the deck could really function is if you got Shinonome out on turn one, and that's by putting her in the pendulum zone. Not by using, which one was it? I believe it was Wakening. Yeah, Valence Wakening is the one that places a pendulum monster from your deck in the pendulum zone. No, you need to use Shinanome's effect to get Wakening into your hand so that you are then able to put Buster Baron into the pendulum zone. If you do not have Shinonome in your opening hand to do this play, there is jack squat that you're really able to accomplish with this deck. And the worst part about it is because of how reliant they are on their pendulum monsters, I wasn't able to run any hand traps. So almost the entire deck was just Valence cards and some additional pendulum support. I struggled to fit 3 Ash Blossoms in there. I couldn't fit any sort of back row removal, Maxes. I had a heck of a time getting that thing to function properly. It's just like, all right, again, we're in 2024. We need to be able to work with hand traps. We need to be able to remove back row before we start doing our plays then. Valence was not capable of doing that at all. I feel really bad for the archetype because aesthetically it's really pretty, but it's not able to pull off any wins. If I were to categorize the deck, I'd put it down in like a D or E tier.
Oof.
Yeah. So that said, the only before we get into your boys there, Draca Slayers, they're all right. I really don't think the new stuff really added anything to the deck, with the exception of I guess that what's it, Magispector one. Apparently, everyone's saying it can bring Necro Valley to the hand, which I guess for a pendulum deck, since you're not going to worry about the graveyard too much, that's nice. Majesty Pegasus, that's it.
Yep.
So, all right, yeah, you're able to play Necro Valley and Dracoslayer because we don't have terraforming anymore. Mazel tov. I don't think the deck's really changed all that much personally. So, now that said, you brought something rather unique to the table here. Care to go over that a little bit?
I would love nothing more than talk about these goofy little guys that came about when I started playing Abyss Actors in Master Duel because they share a pack. That's them good old Amazement fellas. Amazement is a trap interrupting deck. Pretty much a lot of things you're going to be seeing these days, what with the trap tricks and the labyrinth,
I was gonna
etc.
say we've played with 3 trap decks in a month.
Yeah. And this one's probably the weakest one of all those three. Uh, but
What makes you
all,
say that?
um, they don't really have a good boss monster. If I'm being honest, their best option is to steal their opponents.
Fair enough.
So, getting into this deck list, first one through the staples: 3 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Pot of Extravagance, and just gonna run you through the extra deck right after saying running 3 Dogmatica Punishment, because the extra deck is 3 Elder Entity Entis, 1 5-headed dragon, 2 number 39 Utopias, a number C39, a number 41 Baguska, a Time Thief Redoer, number S39 Utopia the Lightning, number 11 Big Eye, Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon at 2, number 89 Diabolosis the Mind Hacker, and 1 Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. None of the extra deck really matters. None of it's your win condition. They're just there to do something with the monsters you've summoned.
If I may, I remember one of the games you had made a comment about extravagance getting rid of the extra deck monsters you wanted. Safe to assume the fusions are there for the sake of Dogmatica Punishment, Which extra deck monsters would you have wanted to go into then?
I'm trying to remember. I think in that match I had either wanted to go into Utopia, the Lightning After Battle phase, just so, or at the very least Utopia, because I just had Kamaka and Delia on board, and their bodies aren't impressive on their own, so it's just a little bit of extra. And I think I'd lost both my Utopias.
Okay.
But talking
That's a
about,
weird take. That's a weird take there to have both excuse me. Utopia of the Lightning and Zeus there. And then I just realized the irony of having Zeus Lightning.
yep, it's all connected.
Yep. In any
So,
case, what about the actual archetypal cards themselves?
so archetypal cards. The only actual new card that was put into this from the pack is Amazement Abomination Arlecchino. I'll get to
Hmm.
him at the end of this when I go over the rest of the staff. Number one, Amazement Attendant Kamaka. When normal summoned, you can set an attraction trap directly from your deck. That's at least a third of my deck, so that's great.
Yeah.
I can target one of my attraction traps, equip to a monster, and equip it to an amazement monster I control or a monster my opponent controls. This is good because all the amazement attractions are dual purpose, giving a different effect depending on the owner of whatever they're equipped to, either myself or my opponent.
Hmm.
So she's good for doing quick switches on that as needed. Then we have Amazement Assistant Delia. You can reveal one attraction trap in my hand, special summon it, and then that's that. Also has a secondary effect to send an attraction trap in my hand or face up field to the graveyard to set a different one directly from the deck. You know, each
Why do
effect once per turn.
why only two copies of her instead of three?
Um, she's not as helpful as Kamika for just being able to summon. And as you can see from most of the stuff here, it's kind of full up on other stuff, traps. I have my archetypal
Right.
searcher, got 3 pot extravagance to get as much gas as I can.
Hmm.
And they have
Okay.
inverted stats from each other 1418 and then 1814.
Right. Huh. Kind of like Shell and Core.
Yeah, ironically enough, these are machines.
Real? Oh. Huh. Maybe because they're ride operators?
Uh, yeah, something like that. I think there's some sort of animatronic staff employed by Arlecchino, which I have thoughts about this freak.
We've all been to the county fair. We know there are machines running them.
Yeah. So, speaking of the man himself, Amazement Administrator Arlecchino, the first boss monster of this deck, level 7 Psychic, 2600 by 22. Once per turn, you can banish any number of attraction traps from your graveyard, target that many cards your opponent controls, and destroy them. This is a nice little board clear because you're actually going to be putting a lot of your amazement attractions in the graveyard. His other fun little effect is if a trap card is activated, doesn't matter who, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, except in a damage step, target one face up monster they control, one monster they control that was just summoned, and equip an attraction trap from your deck to the target. It is a good way to get whatever ride you need out onto the board immediately. You can do something with your rides that have already been expended to clear your opponent's board. He can summon himself. He is just over Dark Magician's attack stat, so I'm going to say he's not terrible on that, but he is just weird.
I do like the fact that he's able to pull any of your traps from the deck and just automatically activate their effect rather than setting like Comica.
Yeah. And then we have the Amazement Abomination Arlecchino, who is very useful for being able to add the card that the other Amazement monsters cannot get to your hand, which is Amazement Family Faces. Now, his own effect is if you control an Amazement monster, special summon him from your hand. That's already just great. 2600 body for having a monster on board. Love it. If you
Yeah.
special summon him this way, you can add Amazement Family Faces. Arguably the actual best card in the archetype. Get to that in a bit. During the opponent's turn, quick effect, I can target one other effect monster on the field with more than 0 attack, shuffle this card into the deck, and if I do, special summon Administrator Arlecchino from the deck, then change the attack of the targeted monster to 0. And that is a permanent stat change.
Hmm.
So he tags out for the other one, putting himself back to be able to add an Amazement Family Faces from deck or graveyard in the future, and also setting an opponent's monster to 0, which does kind of help get around the Arlecchinos being 2600s.
Right.
I think in other archetypes, having these sort of effects would be more busted, but because it's amazement, it's sort of reined in by its own gimmick.
That's true.
So, already said how the pot of extravagances. Then
Mhm.
there's 3 copies of Amazing Time Ticket. Quick play a spell, pay 800 life points, then apply an effect depending on whose turn it is. It's my turn, I can add an Amazement card from deck to hand. If it's my opponent's turn, I can set one attraction trap directly from the deck, and it can be activated that turn. You can only activate one Amazing Time Ticket per turn.
That is a really nice card for getting under that anti-spell fragrance.
Yes, it is. And also, this is sort of like Coup Clock before Coup Clock, being able to set and activate a trap in the same turn.
Uh-huh.
So take that, Labyrinth. 3 copies of Punishment. I've already said why. It's to get rid of everything in my extra deck I don't need. And here we have their best card, Amazement Family Faces. Target one monster your opponent controls equipped with an attraction trap. Equip this card to it. While this card is equipped to a monster, take control of the equipped monster. While you control the equipped monster, it gains 500 attack. You cannot activate its effects. Also, it is treated as an amazement monster. You can only activate one Family Faces per turn.
And that's only a normal one, too. That's not bad. Now, this one had been a previously existing card that wasn't introduced in this set.
No, I believe this was around before. Gonna double check on the old TCG players. Checking
TCG
Amaze.
player.
Yeah, I don't feel like exiting out of this and searching the thing. Yep,
All right.
Family Faces came out in the same set as the other Amazement stuff, Lightning Overdrive.
All right.
Except for Assistant Delia. She came out in Dawn of Majesty.
Okay.
And Arlecchino just came out in Cyberstorm Access.
Hmm.
And there's some other Amazement stuff that's not super good because their main bread and butter comes from the traps.
Right.
So this is Change of Heart and give it a boost on opponent's turn.
And on top of that, because it's already equipped with a card that is going to have an effect when it is your monster, you're getting 3 effects for the price of one.
Uh, Potentially, but not all at once because the attractions do have the downside of you can only use one of their effects per turn, which
Okay.
is balancing.
Right. No, that makes sense then.
So, getting to the attractions, they all have the initial effect of target one amazement monster I control or a face up monster my opponent controls, equip it to it, and then it can activate an effect depending on who controls the equipped monster. First up, we have Cyclo Coaster. If it's equipped to one of mine, target a spell trap the opponent controls, send both it and this card to the graveyard. Send, not destroy.
Hmm.
If it's my opponent's, I can add one amazement monster from deck to hand. And if I do, send this card to the graveyard. So for Cyclo Coaster, either of them, it goes away afterwards, but
Right.
neither of them are terrible.
All right.
Adding is the better thing because it does give me an archetype adder.
Fair enough.
1 copy of Amaze Attraction Rapid Racing. If it's equipped to my monster, target a card in my opponent's graveyard, change the equipped monster's battle position, and if I do, shuffle the target into the deck. Or, the one that comes up more often, equipped to my opponent's, increase the equipped monster's level by 1, and if I do, change its battle position.
Hmm.
So this has actually been super helpful now with Kashtira running around to just throw off their levels just a little bit. One that comes
Not
up
bad.
fairly often and helps me save on space by not needing to run Imperm is Imperm at Home. Amaze
Yes.
Attraction Horror House. If it's equipped to one of mine, I can target an effect monster the opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. If it's equipped to my opponent, change the equipped monster to face down defense position. This does make Horror House go to the graveyard, but for it being a Book of Moon or Imperm, I'm saying it's worth it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not a problem.
Running 1 copy of Amazing Attraction Viking Vortex. If it's equipped to one of mine, once per turn, when opponent's monster declares an attack, negate the attack, and if I do, change control of the equipped monster until the end of the battle phase. This came up once, and you still crashed my monster, but it did stop you from getting rid of it and doing a little bit of chip damage on me, so that's not
Mm,
super helpful. If it's equipped to my opponent's monster, when that monster activates its effect, return it to the hand.
Now
So,
that said, I don't think that one played out too much in our game.
no, it showed up
Just be-
once, and that was just to stop an attack.
right. Yeah, that was the one thing about the Chaos Monsters. They really didn't have too much once they were on the field.
Yeah. Then we have amazing attraction Thrill Train. If it's equipped to one of my monsters, I can change the monster's battle position. Then my opponent chooses an attraction trap in my graveyard and sets it to the field. Or if it's equipped to an opponent's monster, I can banish that monster until the end phase.
Okay.
And then finally, because Ain't I a Stinker, it's Anti Spell Fragrance at its 2 copies.
Yeah, that was a bit of a pain in the butt. But still.
This card saves my life. Very
So
good
one thing I
for going first and preventing those pesky feather dusters and lightning storms.
you're not wrong. That said, something I've noticed here that I kind of like about your deck, it is incredibly cheap. You only have 5 main deck cards that are ultra rares.
Yep.
That's not bad at all.
The deck's also incredibly cheap in the real world. The most expensive card is less than $3.
And it's probably because it hasn't been reprinted yet.
Oh, Hundo P.
Okay, there we go. So we know when the tins come out, it's going to be dirt cheap.
Well, I don't think we're going to see this guy in a 10 for a while because he came out in the Lightning Overdrive.
Oh.
He's a
Huh.
little old.
Yeah, I guess he is at this point. Weird. You
Yeah.
know, wait for one of those Battle of Legends sets for him to get a reprint.
Yeah, we're going to have Clown's Revenge when they give me new Abyss Actor cards.
Well, hey, on the plus side, if he does come out in a set, there's a chance that I don't know, you might get more Abyss Actor, not Abyss Actor, Amazement stuff.
That could be neat. But
That would be neat.
benefit to this deck with all the traps is all the traps are 2 cards in one.
Right, it has that flexibility to it.
Yeah. The only real downside I'd say is a sequence of events where if your opponent activates like an effect activates off your opponent summoning a monster, I couldn't
Hmm.
you couldn't activate Horror House and then negate. I had to have already had Horror House up. So sort of have to play around and predict what my opponent's going to do if it's going to be stopping my effect or my opponent's after the fact.
Right. So, as far as the new stuff, or new thing in this instance is concerned, what do you feel that Abomination brings to the table here? Do you think he really changed up the deck at all, or is he just a nice little splash to throw in there?
I think he made the deck a lot more consistent because he is an additional way to add family faces, which, as seen in one of our matches, I stole your boss monster with it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Steal boss monster off of Arlecchino. I didn't use his effect to adjust stats of monsters during our game, but it can come up because, as I've previously stated, Arlecchino is not impossible to hit over, it being only 2,600.
Right, so that stat adjustment is kind of handy, actually.
Yeah, and also he's a free special summon if you control an amazement monster. So between him and Administrator Arlecchino, they're both able to get themselves out onto the board fairly easily for some of these tricky but helpful rank 7s like Big Eye, Flare Metal, and Diabolosis.
Yeah, Diabolosis was a pain in the butt. So, if Abomination hadn't been added to this latest set, what would be in his place right now?
In its place might be Nibiru, if I'm being honest.
Really? I thought Nibiru has fallen off as far as usage of late.
It does, but in terms of what I think this deck is lacking, is it doesn't have a way to deal with a lot of things. Rather, it can stop things from rolling out one at a time or slowly remove them. So if my opponent's going first and they drop 5 monsters on board, I'm not really going to be able to do anything about that.
That's fair. All right.
But overall,
Yeah,
I'm fairly happy with where this deck is at. Deck is
I
at.
Whoa, phrasing.
We're gonna find those dicks.
Oh,
We're gonna
no.
find the greatest dicks in the world.
Are
We're
you
gonna
gonna play
put
with
their
those
dicks
decks?
into our dicks. Hey man, you can't be playing with our dicks. These kids watch the show. We got a program to run, man. Anyway, I'd rate this maybe a low B.
I'd say the same thing. It's not a terrible trap deck. I mean, they're
It has the same
definitely
failings
worse.
as every trap deck.
Right, but unfortunately, like you said, it doesn't have the same saving graces that trap tricks or I'm not even gonna try to put it on the same level as Labyrinth.
Yeah,
Like
Labyrinth
Labyrinth.
has more effective boss monsters. Trap Tricks can actually use its extra deck. This is goofy.
Someone in the chat, Chris8 just asked, no bear. I'm not too
Yes.
familiar with the Amazement card, so what is the bear?
So the Amazement, Ambassador Bufo. Level 3 beast. When this card's normal summoned, you can target an attraction trap in your graveyard and a face up monster your opponent controls. Equip the trap to that monster. Has the quick effect of targeting an attraction trap equipped to a monster and equip it to an Amazement monster or one face up monster the opponent controls. You can only use each effect once per turn. So the reason I'm not running Bear is because Bear is a on normal summon effect, and between Bear and Kamika, I think Kamika is much more useful because Bear is sort of trying to recover a direction I've already used, whereas Kamika can bring me out anyone that I have. And considering I'm running three ofs except for Vortex and Racing, I'm more fine not running Bear. Also, him being a level 3 makes him even less useful for the little bit of extra deck that I do touch on.
Let me see him. I guess the other issue is he is not a good turn 1 card either.
Yeah, turn 1, Bear does nothing. He does have the quick effect switching around attractions, but as I said before, Kamika does the same thing. She just has a better going first.
Hot take here. Would you break your rule and put him in just as one copy and have a 41 card deck, or would that mess with your OCD too much?
Wouldn't mess with that, but I'm gonna say in terms of what I would like to see off the top, Bear is at best trying to recover. If I was to put in anything, it'd probably be one of my other rides. Like Wonder Wheel, I could cycle cards from my hand to get more stuff. My opponent, I can mess with their stats more. The
Yeah, I'm trying to look
Majestic
here and see what cards you didn't run.
Lord of Heavenly Prison, like Chris 8 is saying now, Lord of Heavenly Prison would be a good one. He'd be the biggest body in the deck and wouldn't be bad to run.
That's true. Yeah.
How many Lord of Heavenly Prison do I have?
IRL or in game?
IRL I have 3, and this I have 2.
Okay.
So yeah, and I also wasn't running any of that in Labyrinth, so I guess I just keep forgetting Lord of Heavenly Prison exists.
I was gonna say he looks like a brick on paper, but if you're playing a trap deck, he's not.
Yeah. So Lord of Heavenly Prison, I guess if I wasn't running Abomination or Lakino, Lord of Heavenly Prison would fill that slot.
You know what? I'd forget the Care Bear, but I'd still put those 2 copies of Heavenly Prison in there, and I think you'd get the same results then.
All right. Good call, Chris 8. You have affected my life choices. And should this ever come back to bite me, I will curse your name with my dying breath. There you go. It has a bigger body out there that isn't dependent on keeping good cards off of Extravagance's random ditch.
Any other thoughts about any of the new cards that have come out or Amazements as a whole?
Amazements also have special show, but I don't really care for it because
Special show. Which one's that? There is that
it's a
the
quick play spell. When your opponent activates a card effect that targets an Amazement monster I control, target an Amazement monster I control, return to the hand, and special summon an Amazement monster from the hand. So it's just a way to bounce and then resummon.
depending on what games you're playing, I can see that definitely being a dead draw.
Yeah. And also special show, if I'm trying to do something and I forget that Amazement Family Faces will return it to it says the hand, not my hand, it'll just return it to theirs.
They don't have a field spell, do they?
Nope.
Which is kind of a weird because you'd think an amusement park would be the field spell.
Yeah. I guess the kind of island took the amusement park field spell slot from them.
That's fair.
A little bit too much overlap from that, but I like the deck. I think it's fun.
I
Like
do
you
too,
said, it's
actually.
cheap.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. As don't expect any OTKs from a trap deck, but there was still that interactivity. You were always doing something, and I would say, with the exception of that one game where the stars aligned properly for me, you were always in control.
Oh, that's dirty, Chris 8.
Try use Summon Breaker plus Terminal World for me.
A summon breaker field spell during the main phase. If the turn player successfully completes their third summon, it becomes the end phase. I believe Terminal World lets you get that out real quickly. Activate only during the main phase. All players on the main field. Both players skip main phase too.
Come on, dude. We're trying to have fun. We're not trying to make someone hate us.
Both these cards are just rare quality, so if someone's feeling a little dirty,
Why is next capitalized? I don't like that.
because it's the next one.
What is that artwork on it supposed to be?
I think it's the old Duel terminal things from like the card shops where like you'd put in like $1 and get like a disgusting Starlight rare.
Oh, okay. Do you know what? That kind of makes sense because that would have been during the 5Ds eras and stuff like Z1 were all capitalized and all that jazz.
Yeah. Oh, 5Ds. Going fast makes me feel alive.
No, it doesn't.
No, no, it doesn't. Going fast makes me feel like I'm going too fast, and I'd really like to slow down.
So, we haven't talked about the elephant in the room yet. Have you had any run ins with cash yet?
I've had a couple of them, and ironically enough, playing Amazement, I've beaten them.
Really?
Yeah, being able to just modulate their levels or turn off their effects is super helpful.
Hmm. All right, I guess that makes sense then. Uh, typically, you would be going first, or
Oh, yeah.
were you ever? Okay, I was gonna say, haven't had any games against them yet where you had to go in second and pray.
I have, and yes, I pray, but unfortunately, I've gotten lucky and they haven't been able to completely lock me out of playing the game. Why Konami thought that was a smart mechanic to add is beyond me.
Overcorrecting for cash, but they sorry, not cash. Cash was overcorrecting for tier, but still.
I think they didn't correct anything.
No, no,
I
I
think they just
agree.
made everything worse.
I hate to say it, we're not in a really fun meta right now. We talked about this off screen, but playing Platinum last month, I was not having any fun at all. I would just do my dailies and it's just like, you know what? I have my gems. I've had enough time banging my head against walls here. Diamond and Master rank can stay out of reach. I'm gonna hang out down in gold and silver with all the other fun kids.
Yeah, we're in for a dark time for a long while going forward, and of course, because Konami wants money, they're not going to ban things like they should on release, because then people won't buy as many packs. And we
I'm
saw, I
actually
think, doesn't Cash have like 4 or 5 URs already?
Yes, it does. Actually, give me a second here. So, yesterday, sorry, not yesterday. When the pack came out, I spent 10,000 gems.
Oof.
It's typically what I'm able to accrue over the course of a month. So, but that said,
I
in
was
this,
wrong. Kashtira has 3 URs. But still, I think those are run at max amount of each. That's 8 URs.
yes. Well, yeah, 8 because Fenrir's limited.
Yep.
But yeah, of those pools, I pulled 1 copy of Fenrir, 2 unicorns, 1 Rise Heart. Shangri-La, I only got 1 copy of. Earth, I got 2. And Ogre and Preparations, I got 3 because they are rare and normal, so why not?
Yep.
Um, but yeah, and all those packs only pulling 4 Kashtira Ultra Rares. And like you said, you need to be running all of them.
Yep.
I'm wondering if there's some skullduggery happening here, especially with compared to the other stuff that came out. Because the Valence Ultra Rare, I pulled like 5 copies of that one. I got 2 copies of the Draco, 2 copies of the Sky Striker. Thank goodness we did not play Sky Striker. I would have
Yeah, we
killed
have
someone.
standards.
Yes, we do.
Whoever thought it was a good idea of Sky Striker a quick play change of heart at 3 is insane.
I'm trying to figure out why Sky Striker is still getting more support. Is it because of the manga?
It has to be something goofy like that.
Because there's like, I feel like it. I don't want to say peaked, but I can't think of a better word. What more do you want? It's still a really, really good deck. I'd put it no less than A tier personally.
Yeah, it's good deck. I guess they're just complaining more. Maybe someone's a really big fan, like their uncle works at Konami or something.
That could.
Who knows?
Yeah, sure.
I actually didn't buy any packs from this pack, because I only needed the Abomination. So I just got a couple of stuff to get the new art for IP Masquerena and just took apart any URs I needed to make him.
Sorry, my brain had to put that together when you said him. It's just like, I'm pretty sure IP is a girl. And it's just like, oh, you're talking about Abomination. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting if they added more Amazement Abominations with a little bit of more inversion stuff for the other things he has. And also, I just really like Arlecchino's arts, where the one has a bunch of Karibo balloons, and this one he has the scapegoat balloons.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. That's cute. I like that.
Yeah, neat.
I think we could use a few more ride operators personally, but that's just me. Maybe throw in another mascot or something to fight the Care Bear.
Yeah, might get a little bit too Five Nights at Freddy's, but I don't know. That franchise is getting a movie, so something worked.
Yeah, which is weird because Nick Cage already did a sort of Five Nights parody film a few years back.
I saw like a montage of that thing, and it was Nick Cage, so I enjoyed it for that bit.
Yeah,
Funny man.
it is. He is a fun man, even when he doesn't try.
Yeah. And clearly we've finished talking about the game because we diverted to Nick Cage, so I think we're just
Oh,
about done
wow.
here.
Well, his son plays Yu-Gi-Oh, so or at least did. So it
Huh.
all comes back together.
My God, I can't believe Nick Cage is going to play Grandpa Moto in the live action.
Dude, that would be so sick.
Yugi, you gotta teach this little son bitch the heart of the cards. Anyway, I'm gonna go have a heart attack now. Someone drag me to the ambulance.
No, no, no. That's when he gets kidnapped by Pegasus after he was already kidnapped by Kaiba. But
Yugi,
that was.
they put me in the VCR. Do kids these days know what a VCR is? Yugi, they put me in a Blu-ray.
I'm only available on streaming now, Yugi.
Yugi, they're trying to say they're selling the DVD box set of a streaming show, but there's nothing in the box.
All right, don't get me going on a different tangent here.
Yeah,
I
well,
have complaints about that.
you should. It's dumb.
Yeah, but it's not Yu-Gi-Oh related, so I'm not going to go into it.
Well, I think we should leave everyone off here to think about their ideas for the live action cast of Yu-Gi-Oh.
I just saw Chris Aid's thing. Oh gosh, I want Elijah Wood to play Yugi.
Can we get Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger to bring back their role as twins playing
For
the.
Paradox,
Yes! One of us only lies. I'm going to tell the truth.
You know who I think would make a good Kaiba?
Oh,
Andrew Garfield.
that's not bad. He's
No,
good.
it's not. Yeah, I think he's got it in him.
Yeah, just
Figuring
gotta
out.
muss up that pretty boy hair of his a bit.
You mean clean it up?
I mean, I think the aloofness of his hair is part of the appeal.
Oh, you mean Andrew Garfield's appeal? Because I was going to say if he wanted to pull off the Kaiba look, he'd need to find a comb.
No, I don't think they have those over there.
No, no. I feel sorry for the British.
They made their choice.
They did. They did.
They could have just thrown it all in the harbor like we did. But no, you wanted to forget how to use spices. Anyway, Uh,
I think we've veered off enough here.
yeah, that's one too many distractions and tangents. That is going to be the end of this discussion video of Amazement versus Chaos. If you want to see how those matches went, that video has already been put up on the channel. Go ahead and give that a look to see what it was like in action. If you are catching
Uh,
the replay, thanks for that too.
Bye.
You have something else you wanted to say?
I'm sorry for people who have to watch my match.
Yeah, Chaos is bad. Amazement, it's fun.
Yes, watch for the amazement. Don't stay for the chaos.
Yeah, I made a bit in the description where it's entertainment versus edge lords, and I stand by that.
You're spot on.
Anyway, I already did the outro bit. Bye, everyone.
Bye.